if we look at buffer calculations, that's more interesting. Let's see what a buffer calculation can help us with. If I go to a new sheet and I take superchargers of Tesla. Okay, let's see. Give it a proper name. Sheet tree. I see I have country, city, a location, a status, a type, and so on, and some measures that tell me, okay, what's the performance of these different superchargers. We had a question previously when we were giving training that when you create something on a map, first of all, I see I'm losing some locations. So try to edit the locations to make sure I've added my own home location in here. Tableau does not really know it, so let's help him out by guiding him to the correct one. If he's willing to open my dropdown, Mechelen. Okay. So Mazen Mechelen right here. To make it a bit more clear for you, I'll make sure the background is a bit more transparent. Okay, something like this. In here we have Mazen Mechelen. I would like to know how many kilometers around my house is a supercharger available. In the past, we had the same questions when we gave our own trainings. We have some elements available for selecting data on your map. One of them is this radial selection option. You can do a selection like this around my house. It says this. And the first question everyone asked us was, okay, and how can I now type the amount of kilometers that are available or that I would like to see around this data point? This was not possible. It was possible, of course, if you did some extensive joining within your own data or to really come up with a solution for this, but not an easy out-of-the-box calculation that shows this for you. As of now, thanks to the buffer calculation, this is possible. So let's try to find out or try to recreate what you see in this image to see, okay, all of the supercharger points around my house, and then let the user choose the number of kilometers they'd like to see where I can still charge the Tesla. Okay, let's take a look. First of all, let's go and try to create a calculated field to see how a buffer calculation exactly looks like. Buffer returns a buffer of the given distance around the point. And I can see in the example that Tableau gives me that my buffer needs what's called a make point. Okay, let's take a look at a make point in a separate sheet. Create calculated field, make point. Okay, returns a spatial object constructed from latitude and longitude, or a spatial object when constructed from x coordinate and y coordinate. Okay, so basically I need to create a make point, which will be the center of my buffer by looking at the latitude and longitude of my house. Okay, let's take a look what we have in our data. I have home and supercharger. Okay, great. So I have to take a look at the type. And I'll help you out by giving you a preview of what the underlying data looks like. So I have different cities, the locations, the address, the home. Okay, I type superchargers or home, and then we see a latitude and a longitude in there. Good, I can use these columns to make sure my make point calculation is being created. Create calculated field. Okay, I live here. Let's see. I only want to have the make point location marked when it's of the type home. So I'm going to take if the type equals home, then make sure you create a make point that looks at the latitude custom and longitude custom. And okay, that's valid. Let's take a look. We see our new geographic field being generated here. If I go to a new sheet and just double click it, it should show my house. Okay, that's great. It's still Mazen, the center of Belgium. Great. Let's continue to our Okay, someone wants me to write my if statements in a proper way. I'm afraid I'm not really going to do that, but it's a good tip. And I'm going to create a second calculate field to make sure that my buffer calculation is being constructed. Of course, all of this is possible in one big calculation. I'm now splitting it up to make it clear for you that I'm doing it in 2 steps, that I first had to know a sort of make point, and now I'm going to create my buffer. Okay, calculation 1. How many kilometers from home? Okay. Buffer. What does my buffer need? It needs this geometry field, this make point element. So just say I live here. Then we want to make sure, okay, what's the range from this point? Let's quickly browse for Tesla Model 3 range in kilometers. You'll see some Dutch results because I'm Belgian myself, but I see here 315. Let's go for that one. So let's use 215 kilometers from home. And I also already see here the sort of measurement I'm looking for. It also will be kilometer as in this example. Okay, great. How many kilometers from home? Double click. You'll see, okay, I can get quite far in Europe. Thank France, Germany, Netherlands. Okay, looks good. But of course, this is too static. Now it's 315, which is the max range of a Tesla Model 3, let's say. I want to give my end user the possibility to play around with it. So that means that I would like to edit this one, and this number here, 315, this needs to be changeable by a user input. Every single time that we talk about a user input, we're actually talking about a parameter. By creating not a calculated field, but a parameter, we can go and create a sort of slider for our users to play around with the buffer or the circle that we see ourselves. Select the range. It's an integer. The current value, let's start with, let's say, 10% of the total range. It was 315. Okay, let's say I can still drive 30 kilometers. Would like to create a range slider, minimum 100, and let's go for 315, if, as we now know, is the max. Click on OK. Select a range. I would like to show it to my user by right-clicking and selecting Show Parameter Control. If I start sliding with it, of course, it's not doing anything at this point because it's an empty box that has to control something. It's in this location in here in our calculate field that we just created. We have to edit. And this number now has to be changed by the parameter we just created. If I click on OK, you'll see the circle changing and the user can start playing around with the range itself. Okay, what's next? The next element is, of course, well, I don't see the different supercharger points yet. I only see this center location where somewhere here in the middle I should be living. So let's extend this by creating a dual axis. And in the second one, we're not going to focus on this. We're going to focus on the different cities where my superchargers are located. Every single row was one city in Belgium. I'm not really sure if these are all the superchargers, but that's the data we're working with right now. So let's make sure these are shown on top of each other. It's not very clean yet, so let's make sure we're zoomed in a little bit. And I want to make sure that all of the different elements are shown as a shape, and the shape should be the image of my supercharger. Okay, we're getting close. Let's make it a bit bigger. Of course, you now see when I hover over this center point, it's still my house, which is not a supercharger point. I wish it was, but it's not. So let's see how we can change that one by also playing with the type. The type was, let's drag our type on shape. And on the right side, you now see we have a type home and a type supercharger. If I click on shape once more, home would be, let's put my face on top of it. These are all the Bisturi consultants. This is me. Supercharger, okay, company logos like this. Okay, you now see my face in the middle, that's great. Let's make sure our map is a bit washed out, it becomes clearer, and change the color of our center shape to something like this. So thanks to our buffer calculation, we can now see where I can get when I only have, for example, 10% left in the range of the car. That means if I can only drive 15 kilometers, I should still be able to reach the one in Machelen, which is quite close to Brussels. So thanks to this buffer calculation, it's way easier to see where you can get or where you have sections that cross each other within your own dataset. And that is what the buffer calculation is possible to do as of now.